Right now, it's time to share the saddle as we keep track of the Tour de France.
There are certain days in the cycling season that all professional riders live in fear of. Today in the Tour de France, we find such a day.
The next 2 days in the mountains are going to be the toughest of the whole Tour de France. It will be very difficult to succeed, but I'm certainly going to try.
The words of Gianni Bugno, the world champion, who's devoted his season to winning this year's Tour de France. You know, I think there he voices the opinion of every survivor in this year's race. We're now in Italy, the 7th country this year the Tour has visited. We're at Sestriere, 2,020 metres above sea level. The route here in the Alps is a difficult one. When you come to the mountains of the Tour de France, they're always special. But when you come into Italy via this route, then they are particularly cruel. Just look at the route they face. They start by climbing the Col de Sestriere after just 31 kilometres. Then they come over the Col de Merlet, which leads them on to the Cormet de Roselon. That's a first category climb. Descend to 800 metres before they start the big one, the high spot of the Tour de France, the Col de Liseron at 2,770 metres. Then another descent before they climb the Col de Mont-Cenis. Then it's down to the basement on today's stage at just over 500 metres before the long, steady climb to here at Sestriere.
And now let's have a look at the rollout this morning at 8:45. Back at the start town of Saint-Gervais, warm sunshine greeting the 165 starters today. The sad news, I have to tell you, is that Edwin van Hooijdonk, the Belgian rider, has withdrawn from the race this morning owing to the death of his father, and he has returned home to Belgium. The destiny with the Alps is now with the riders, and on the Col de Sestriere, it was that man, Claudio Chiappucci, straight onto the attack on this second category climb, going over the top ahead of Richard Veronk and Thierry Claverola. And by the time they arrived on the 1,968 metres ascent of the Col du Roselon, Chiappucci had forced a group of 10 riders into the lead. Claverola was second here, and Capestani. Sean Yates went over the top of this climb in 11th place, just 1 minute off the leaders, and soon after that he joined the leading group. But sad to tell you that Inaki Gaston in this leading group crashed and has gone to hospital with serious facial injuries. There we are now, approaching the top of the Col de Liseron. It has proved to be a show day for the Italian Claudio Chiappucci as he races now towards the Italian frontier. And the chase behind contains, and this is something of a surprise, a great show of defiance by the yellow jersey of the Tour de France, Pascal Lino. He didn't wait to be attacked by Miguel Indurain. He chose to attack himself. Into the last kilometre there, Paul, and look at the rhythm of this man.
He really is going well. Fantastic tactician, I suppose, because he always causes everybody he always takes everyone by surprise. They know he's going to attack, and he always manages to get the gap. I don't know how they let him go away every day.
Well, I think it was you earlier today who told me of a lovely little quote from Miguel Indurain. He told us the other day, he said, "I suppose Chiappucci will attack me going downhill or through a tunnel," because that's Indurain's indication that this man has no respect for the leaders of the Tour de France. He just attacks when he feels like it. He's no tactics in mind, no strategy. He just gets out and rides his race. And this is another example of how this man just goes out and attacks when he feels like it. He's been out front since the race began today. He went over the top of the Col de Sestriere, the first climb. He was the leader there. He went over the top of the Col du Roselon, and that was in a small breakaway group. And now on the giant of them all, the Liseron, he has gone clear on his own. And as you can see now, the crowd appreciating it as he comes up to the last 400 yards.
Actually, another little anecdote before Chiappucci gets over the top. I was talking to Stephen Roach yesterday about the tactics of Delgado, and Delgado didn't work. I said, well, Stephen, you could find yourself in the same situation if Claudio Chiappucci attacks. You'll be able to sit on. He said, the problem with Chiappucci is he never attacks alone. Well, I think maybe Chiappucci must have heard that as he goes over the top to take maximum points. He must have heard exactly what Stephen Roach had said and thought, I'll just show you today, Stephen.
You can just about see the riders coming through this magnificent crowd on the Col de l'Iseron. Almost 30 years since the Tour de France came over this climb, and one or two riders hopes it'll be about the same time again before it comes over once again.
I'm sure one or two will think that, because this really is an incredible climb, climbing up to 2,700 meters. That's nearly 8,000 feet. It's a very long climb here. Conti making a little bit of a move here, going forward to try and get some points for the King of the Mountain competition. Lino suffering a little bit there, dropping further back, but that won't be too much of a problem. He'll go over the top and be very quickly back together with these other two riders.
So the peloton, the select group, go over the top, 3 minutes and 44 seconds behind the leader on the road, Claudio Chiappucci. The man missing from this group is Greg LeMond, as the riders will continue to climb this mountain, believe me, for the next 30 or 40 minutes. But the leaders are over the top and speeding now towards their next big rendezvous. And coming through the cloud line now is Greg LeMond. Dropped on the early part of this climb. He has suffered today, more so I would suggest, than he suffered in the Pyrenees a year ago. So we are indeed around about 17 or 18 minutes behind here as Greg LeMond goes over the top of the Col d'Iseron. And the lonely figure of Claudio Chiappucci now coming towards the top of the giant Col du Mont Cenis. And he's still holding off the might of the Tour de France today. And the big guns have started to fire on this climb, because Gianni Bugno and Miguel Indurain are now clear of the field and trying to eat in to the 4 minutes and 34 seconds this man had at the start of the climb. They've reduced it by only a few seconds as he comes up towards the summit. So Chiappucci, all that lies in front of him now is one more climb to come. And he'll have been riding 7 hours when he gets to the end of the stage today. There we are, the two chasers, and it is Bugno setting the pace now, the man who attacked, but they have been showing the pace up the climb.
Well, I think Indurain has quieted one or two of his critics today. A lot of people were worried about the fact that he wouldn't get over the mountains here, because he's never really climbed to 2,700 meters before, nearly 8,000 feet, and he is a big rider. He's over 6 foot tall and weighs something around about 78, 79 kilos, and that's very, very heavy for a climber, but he's definitely got over them quite well today.
Well, Bugno has gone over the top in second place. With him, Miguel Indurain. 3 minutes 30 is the gap. So since they started the reaction in this move, they have taken back just on 1 minute of the lead of Chiappucci. And with there's a long way to go. We're now at 180 kilometers here. We're now seeing the arrival of the yellow jersey group. So he is still... No, this is Andy Hampson. He slipped away about 3 kilometers from the summit. Hampson goes through with Coccioli there. And they've gone through at 4 minutes, just about 4 minutes over the top. This is Robert Miller setting the pace with Laurent Fignon here too. Almost 5 minutes now since Claudio Chiappucci passed over the top of the Col de Mont Cenis. So they are the little group that's just behind the yellow jersey group of Pascal Lino. He is out of contention for the yellow jersey right now. That should swing across to the shoulders of Miguel Indurain tonight. But it will all go down to the last climb, the climb to Sestriere. And in fact, here he is. Here comes the Pascal Lino now. Robert Miller's group has passed him and gone ahead. He's falling further back all the time. 5 minutes, 23 seconds. Pascal Lino has gone over the top. That puts him more than 2 minutes behind Miguel Indurain. As he heads now towards the last climb today in the Alps, Miguel Indurain is the leader on the road of the Tour de France. We'll take a break. And welcome back, and the situation on the road has not changed. This magnificent man, Claudio Chiappucci, is now just 8 kilometers, 5 miles from the end of what has been a cruel day for everybody in the Tour de France. But this man who broke away on the first climb today is now looking at a breakaway which could last to the end of some 220 kilometers. A tremendous performance since we've come over the top of the Col du Mont Cenis. Well, the two chasers, Indurain and Bugno, have been joined on the descent. A magnificent chase, in fact, off that mountain into Italy. And Andy Hampson of the American Motorola team has caught up. And also Franco Vono, another Italian, riding on the MG team. So there's four very solid riders chasing behind, and for a long while it looked as though they were going to catch Chiappucci, because at the bottom of the climb, here they are, at the bottom of the climb, Chiappucci was only 1 minute 45 seconds ahead. The latest time check, you've got it there, Paul.
Well, the latest time check is 2 minutes and 20 seconds. It went down to 1:45, but as they got to the climb, Chiappucci's gap has gone up again, and I think the only explanation is because Indurain now is starting to be a little bit worried about Bugno, who hasn't been contributing to the pacemaking at all. Fignon is chasing behind. He's trying to come back up, which is why Bugno will not work. He was with Eric Brooking, who you've just seen being dropped there, and this is Laurent Fignon, but he's some 3 minutes behind the four men in front there.
Now, we haven't seen too much of the brave Pascal Lino today, but he is in a group, a fairly large group, and he is round about 5.5 minutes off Chiappucci. So, as we look at these pictures now, the man who will claim the yellow jersey tonight is the defending champion, number 1, Miguel Indurain, to the right of our picture here. He knows it now, but the way Chiappucci is beginning to pick up time again, well, Chiappucci too is going to go right up the overall classification tonight. One of the great old men of the Tours de France, Laurent Fignon here, twice a winner of the Tour in 83 and 84, now trying to contact these four riders. And I think Paul Sherwin is right. That is why Gianni Bugno, but look at the gap opening here. Bugno is being forced to react, but he is reacting very slowly, Paul, so maybe he isn't waiting for Fignon. He's actually being left here by that move.
He's not reacting at all. In fact, the thing is, he really is quite tired, which is why he's not been contributing. He's talking to his team manager for the last 15, 20 kilometers, asking them what the situation is, where is Laurent Fignon, but the man at the front who's made that acceleration is Franco Vona. Hampston can't follow now. Indurain responds straight away to go into Vona's wheel, and I think very soon Indurain will see what the situation is, and he's going to start to put the hammer down, because he's been very worried about Gianni Bugno, and it looks as if he's really dropping his arms now.
Well, Andy Hampson too has gone over the big distance today of 254 kilometers. It appears that it's a little bit too far for him, because that gap has been prized open by Franco Vono. Well, Vono and Indurain know each other very, very well, because in the Tour of Italy this year, which Indurain won, Vono finished in 6th position and won 2 stages on the way to the big finish. And now here they are in Italy enacting the Tour de France, and they're together once again.
Hampson here has done a lot of work with Miguel Indurain earlier on. I think he's paid for the work that he did there, but he does suffer over the bigger distances. He cracked in the Tour of Italy on the 250 kilometer stage, just 1 kilometer from the end. But then just now when Franco Vona attacked, he was just not able to respond to the acceleration. And Vona really put a fine attack in to get rid of Gianni Bugno. But now you see that Miguel Indurain has got rid of Bugno. Now he's going to try and put as much time as possible into him. He's marked the man all day. It was Bugno who made the original attack, marked by Indurain, and now Indurain wants to get rid of him. We go past the sign for the start, the sign of Sestriere. He's coming into the actual outlines of the town, but there's still 4.5 kilometers before he actually gets to the finish line at the top here where we are, and he really is fighting all the time. He's holding on, but it's coming down slowly but surely. Those riders are going to have him in their sights in the last final kilometers.
Well, the shouts down his ears. The riders have often told me they don't, in fact, hear the crowd around them when they shout at them. It's concentrating so hard at this stage. And look at this now. Vona's in trouble. Vona has been dropped now by Miguel Indurain. The champion-elect of the Tour de France is turning on the style. We are just inside the town boundaries of Sestriere, but as Paul Sherwin has said, we're still a little way from the finishing line, and Vona has now been dispatched back down the mountain. And now it's Indurain and Spain versus Chiappucci and Italy in what is turning out to be a dramatic pursuit on the climb of Sestriere today.
Well, as he moves away here, if I can see the sign of Sestriere again, I've got the watch going to find out what the chances are for Claudio Chiappucci in the front there. It's coming down all the time, and this really is, there it is. It's 1 minute and 10 seconds, so it's going to be very close on the line. Indurain making an incredible performance here, and I'm sure he wouldn't have even thought about attacking today if it hadn't been for Gianni Bugno starting it all off, and now he's decided everybody's a little bit tired, so I'm really going to get rid of them.
Well, had we been anywhere but Italy today, I am sure Chiappucci would not have survived these last 2 kilometres, because the rider is dead on the bike here. He's totally exhausted, which is hardly surprising in the heat of the day here in the Alps. But now the crowd are ready to welcome an Italian, the leader of the King of the Mountains at that. And I think after today's escapade, nobody will touch him in the mountains all of the way to Paris. The question still remains whether he can win this Tour, but the feeling will be he can't, because Miguel Indurain has reacted so well to the attacks today, and in the end has been beaten by only one man in the top of the mountain here at Sestriere in Italy.
Indurain really has been a master of the tactics today. He really watched every move. He never panicked. At one time there was an attack by the yellow jersey. He just let it go and then controlled it. And now when he got to the final climb, he waited, and when he saw that Gianni Bugno was suffering, he went away and got rid of him, and he put a big distance, I think, by the end of this evening between himself and the rest of his challengers. But one man we'll always remember from today is Claudio Chiappucci, and I think the Italian crowds will go home tonight very, very happy.
Well, just look at this now. I don't know where they're finding the energy from to run so far behind Chiappucci up this steep climb. But this is what the crowd have waited for now. The waters part as Chiappucci heads towards the final kilometre banner. That's what he's been dreaming of for the best part of 5 hours today. And even the race referees are now in the way, because the crowd cannot get back far enough. And look at this. I've never seen this ever in a Tour de France. We've seen the crowds come close on Alpe d'Huez, but never this before now, as they welcome the Italian to the summit.
They've gone totally wild, the Italians. This is what is known, I think, as invading the pitch. He got slowed down a little bit there by 10 or 15 seconds, but he's got away again. I don't think there's going to be any problem behind. Here's Miguel Indurain. He's not going to catch him, but what a fantastic finale for Claudio Chiappucci. I think it must be like running across Wembley Stadium.
Well, this is a tremendous end to the stage of the Tour de France. It's goodbye to all of the foreign countries who have welcomed this great race this year. And they've welcomed it with open arms in Europe, with literally thousands and thousands and thousands of spectators. And on this very last day in Europe in general, the country has got themselves a home winner. And indeed, the great Claudio Chiappucci has not let the side down with an escapade in the Alps we'll talk about for years to come. I don't know whether Chiappucci will hear anything in his ears now. He's probably riding in a trance. He'll be so exhausted. But he's in the last 500 metres of the stage today, a stage of 254 kilometres. Chiappucci comes under the kite. I wouldn't be surprised now if the gap has actually gone out even more than 1 minute. And Indurain must be surprised himself by the crowds as he's come up towards the last kilometre. Now Chiappucci's on the closed section of the road where the crowds are safely locked behind those barriers. Now all that's left is the long, empty straight. If only we could know how he is feeling now, but I would think that the goose pimples on his arms are as high as the Alps as he comes to the finish. You may be able to hear the roars of the crowd. They know that Chiappucci is in sight of them. Look at this.
And he really has gone over the top as he gets into the last 200 or 300 metres. What a fantastic ride by this little man. He's savouring it now. His body won't hurt anymore now that he's got to the line. He's going to cross that. He's punching the air for joy. A brilliant end to a brilliant day's ride.
The greatest victory in his career. There'll be no doubt about that as he kisses the crowd and salutes them. He can't even hold his body off the bike for the salute. He's so tired. Almost 8 hours. What a day. And listen to the crowd. Claudio Chiappucci is home. The clock starts. This is the man who will claim yellow. The average speed is fast for the mountains. 32.8 kilometres an hour. Almost 21 miles an hour with all those mountains. And Claudio Chiappucci comes up. Well, there's a rider in front of him there, but I must confess neither Paul and I know who he is, but we think he might be in the Tour. But Indurain, I'm sorry if I said Chiappucci in the excitement there, but Indurain is coming up towards the line. The Italian flags are still flying. 41 seconds the gap and 400 yards to go. So, in fact, miraculously it seems, but Chiappucci has gained even time over these last 3 kilometres of the climb. And it's going to be more than a minute now, but there is no doubt that Miguel Indurain, and in fact this is Franco Bona who's come through. We have never been told of Franco Bona being ahead. We don't even know where he came past Miguel Indurain, but there he is ahead of the ride today. Well, that is absolutely amazing, but there has been no information on Bona. The last we saw of him, he was being dropped by Indurain. He must have come back. And Franco Bona will take second place today on the stage at 32.8 kilometres an hour for him. And Miguel Indurain, look at this time. He's slowed down dramatically over these last couple of kilometres as Bona takes second place.
Well, Indurain must have cracked somewhere down there with 2 or 3 kilometres to go, and Franco Bona, who he dropped, came back to him and left him behind, because as you can see, 1:45, he's lost 45 seconds on Claudio Chiappucci over the last 2 kilometres, which means to me that he really must have cracked. And now we look down to see Gianni Bugno coming up to the line. He's still trying to get up there. He's trying to limit his losses today, but he will definitely move away from Miguel Indurain on the leaderboard. But Indurain must have really suffered in the last few kilometres.
And here comes a very, very tired Gianni Bugno, the world champion, approaching the line for 4th place now. But he is conceding more than a minute to Miguel Indurain, and it'll be just on 3 to Claudio Chiappucci for Gianni Bugno. Followed home by Andy Hampson of the United States. Andy has done himself a terrific performance today. He'll get 6th place in this stage in the Alps, and he'll come home about 3.5 minutes back. A very tired Andy Hampson just about musters the strength to bring him over the finishing line, but he can be proud of his performance in Italy today in the Tour de France. Over 3.25 minutes since the winner crossed the line. 3:26, the gap for Andy Hampson in 6th place. And the clock ticks on. We're now looking at Laurent Fignon coming up the hill in 7th place. But he will be just on 6 minutes behind Claudio Chiappucci. There's no doubt now that this year's Tour de France has made its selection, and the new yellow jersey will be Miguel Indurain.
So after a day of almost 8 hours, Claudio Chiappucci brought the joys to Italy tonight, winning by 1 minute and 34 seconds ahead of Franco Bona, another Italian. He caught and passed Miguel Indurain in the final kilometre of the race, Indurain taking 3rd place. Gianni Bugno 4th, and Andy Hampson finishing 5th. So a happy Chiappucci on the podium tonight. He brought the goods home to the crowd. We'll never call him a lucky bike rider again as they did 2 years ago. The overall classification, this makes interesting reading now. Miguel Indurain, the defending champion, has the overall lead in the Tour de France. 1 minute and 42 seconds ahead of Claudio Chiappucci. Gianni Bugno is 3rd, 4 minutes 20 seconds back. Then Pascal Lino, in defence of his yellow today, falls back to 4th place, 7 minutes 21 seconds down. All of the rest have lost time today to the big hitters now of this year's Tour de France. The new race leader tonight, Miguel Indurain, the defending champion of the Tour, but over those last couple of kilometres he did appear fallible, and I wonder if the rest have noticed it. Now you can win the leader's yellow jersey tomorrow night after the finish at Alpe d'Huez. All you have to do is to correctly predict the winner of that stage, and you will go in the hat. The successful person will win the leader's yellow jersey. Entries now only by telephone before midnight tonight on this number, 0891 500 112. Claudio Chiappucci today was the winner in the grand style of many winners of the Tour de France, but none more so than the great Italian Campanissimo Fausto Coppi. When this race last came to Sestriere in 1952, Fausto Coppi won with a breakaway like this, and he went on to win the Tour de France. And I wonder now if Claudio Chiappucci can be persuaded to do the same. Well, there's no finer tribute one can pay a rider of the calibre of Chiappucci than it is to come from a rider who is trying to catch him all day. As we say goodbye tonight, the words of Andy Hampson.
Hats off to Chiappucci. That's the best victory I've ever seen.